It's better than the thumbnail makes it look, but also it's about what the thumbnail makes it look like. Hey guys, it's Hannah, and today I am doing my December wrap-up and January TBR. In December, I technically read 10 books, but I also technically did not read 10 books because I only read 5 books and 5 short stories. But comparing that to my last 2 wrap-ups, that's really good. The first book I read in the month of December was The Sackett Brand by Louis L'Amour. This book read like it was the first book in his whole like Sackett saga. The Sacketts are, I would say, Louis L'Amour's most popular group of characters. And up to this point, the only book I had read was Ride the River, which has Echo Sackett, whom I love, and that is one of my all-time favorite Louis L'Amour books. This one follows Tell Sackett, and he and his wife are planning on moving, and they have all their wagons and whatnot, and he's out scouting away when he gets shot at, almost dies, and then he's essentially trying to figure out, one, who shot him, and also kind of get revenge. The first part of this book I was kind of bored with it, but towards the end it really picked up. It kind of had this whole we're getting the gang together vibe to it towards the end, which I really liked. One thing I will say about this book though, it's very repetitive. Something happens to him and he's constantly retelling the story to different characters, but you've heard him tell that story so many times, so it does get a bit repetitive in that sense. As a whole, I liked this book, but it's not my favorite of Louis L'Amour's books, but I did enjoy it. And the next book I read was Hanging Woman Creek by Louis L'Amour. This book follows Barnabas Pike, who kind of ends up in the middle of this like feud in a way. And he and his buddy Eddie, that's Barnabas, that's Eddie, they get hired to a job and then they don't realize how risky of a job it was, but then they're there, so they decide to fight for what's right, and that's basically what happens in this book. And again, it's not my favorite Louis L'Amour, but I did enjoy it. And again, towards the beginning it was kind of okay, and then it started to pick up towards the end. It was enjoyable, but it's not going to be one that I rant and rave about. The next book I read was Santa Puppy by Lynn Cahoon. This is a tourist trap mystery series short story, and it follows Jill, and she lives in this small tourist town in California. And she ends up solving a whole bunch of murders, even though she's technically not supposed to. I'm gonna go ahead and combine these next 3. So I read Santa Puppy, but then I also read A Very Mummy Holiday and A Deadly Brew. And I actually finished A Very Mummy Holiday first, and then I read Santa Puppy, and then I read A Deadly Brew. So I went from a Thanksgiving short story to a Christmas short story to a Halloween short story. I would say the Thanksgiving short story was my favorite. It takes them, I believe they were in Oregon, so it takes them out of South Cove, I think is what the town's called, and that was a nice change of scenery. Santa Puppy puts them back in South Cove, and I really liked that one again. And then Deadly Brew, they're like just outside. They kind of go on this like haunted mansion sleepover, and that one was interesting because there were a lot of like mystical elements, but this isn't a mystical world, so that was an interesting one. All in all, I liked all of them, but they didn't feel as developed as her regular length books do, which is to be expected because they are short stories. But as a whole, I enjoyed them, and I enjoyed being back with the characters, and it actually caused me to continue the series a little more later on in the month. But before that, the next book I read was Tears of the Giraffe by Alexander McCall Smith. This is the second book in the #1 Ladies Detective Agency series, and it was fantastic. These books follow a woman who has started the #1 Ladies Detective Agency, and something happens at the end of the first book that is then discussed a lot in the second book, and I loved it. I love the dynamic of all of the characters and the relationship the characters have with Africa. This is such a good, heartwarming kind of a book. It's a cozy kind of a book because it's one of those books that you're just going to enjoy, and you know you're going to enjoy it. And I absolutely love it. And I did find out something that happens in some later books that I noticed foreshadowing for in this book that I would not have noticed if I hadn't found out something that happened in later books. So that was also fun. I read most of this on Christmas actually. I had gotten up to page, I think, 50 beforehand, and then on Christmas Day we just all kind of relaxed around the house a lot that day, and I wanted to finish the whole book because I was leaving really early the next morning for an internship. I wanted to finish the book because I was borrowing it from my aunt, and I got it done. It was just beautiful. It's such a relaxing read, so if you're wanting something to read to unwind, I highly recommend this series because the characters are so intricate but also simple. The way Alexander McCall Smith describes Africa just makes you want to move there instantly, and these books are just so good. So I highly recommend you check them out. The next book I read entirely on December 26th. Mostly on some plane rides, and then the last like 50 or so pages in a hotel room. And that book is Grandma Gatewood's Walk, the inspiring story of the woman who saved the Appalachian Trail by Ben Montgomery. This book follows Emma Gatewood, who one day tells her kids that she is going for a walk, and that walk ends up being a through hike on the Appalachian Trail, which starts in Georgia and ends in Maine. So it's quite a walk. And it just kind of follows her life, follows her journal that she kept on the trail. You're not reading her words that she wrote, you're reading Ben Montgomery's interpretation of her words, and then he also throws in, this is what weather was happening during the time she was walking. Here's me walking in her footsteps. And it was really good. It also kind of gives a snide remark to A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson, which I love that book as well, and I also love this book, and so the kind of fight between the two is hilarious to me. If you want to read a book about an inspiring woman, look no further. And it has that perfect blend of here are the facts, but also here's a kind of diary-esque narrative and this storyline for you to read and follow. And I love books like that, and I love this one. It was just so good, and I read it in a day. The next two books are also short stories, so I'm also going to combine them. Those are A Gun for Kilkenny and West of Dodge, both by Lewis L'Amour. I got a notification that Amazon was giving me a deal on a bind-up version of all of the Kilkenny books by Lewis L'Amour. And if you don't know, the Kilkenny series is my favorite Lewis L'Amour series. It is so good. And I had this bind-up version in my wishlist for quite some time that had all the books he ever showed up in. But I never bought it, and then they gave me a deal where it was like half off, and so I bought it. They knew how to get to me. And the two books that have Kilkenny that I had not read were the short stories West of Dodge and A Gun for Kilkenny. So I read both of those over my internship, which by the way, it was in Arizona. It was at a livestock show. I was on the media team. And so I'd have times where I could like sit and do something, but I didn't want to like sit and whip out a book. So I sat and whipped out a book on my phone. Because then they think you're working on something media related and nobody questions you. Fun little fact. West of Dodge felt a bit random. I couldn't tell where it fell within the Kilkenny series. And while I still loved it, I still loved seeing Kilkenny. It was kind of it was just a book I read. A Gun for Kilkenny I liked a bit more because it was just a little more action-filled, a little more mysterious in some part, and so I liked that one a lot better. Both of these were very, very short ones. Monument Rock, another Kilkenny short story, is more like a novella, and these are more like blurbs. But I can now say that I have read every Kilkenny book, and I now own every Kilkenny book on my Kindle, so whenever I'm just in the mood for Kilkenny, I can whip them out and read it right there. The last book I read is another book that I downloaded on my phone so I could read during this internship, and that is Dressed to Kill by Lynn Cahoon, which is the fourth book in the Tourist Trap mystery series. So if you don't know, I accidentally read the fifth book first, which is Killer Run. I liked it a lot, so then I went back and I read the first three. But I read the first three back to back, and it's a cozy mystery, so in some aspects it is kind of cookie cutter. And so after those three books, I was kind of burnt out of her world, and so I wanted to take a break. So I took a break, and reading those short stories during the Oh What Fun Readathon. That's, by the way, why I read those short stories. It was for the Oh What Fun Readathon. Got me back in that world, reinvested into the characters, and so I read the fourth book. Now I'm on track to start in order. This book was a lot of fun. Not my favorite in the series. I think my favorite in the series is still the first one I read, which is Killer Run, but absolutely loved it. Jill, so funny. Her boyfriend's ex has moved into town, and so I didn't always appreciate the like cat fights between the two, but they did make sense with just like the way Sherry's character is shaped. But if you're just wanting a enjoyable, cute, fun, cozy mystery, look no further than this. It's just the way to go. They're always a good time. They're always enjoyable. They always just make me smile. Like, if you're wanting a good, cozy mystery, this is what you need to read. Fifth book's still my favorite. I'm on the waiting list for the ebook for the sixth book. On to my January TBR. I am currently reading Thick as Thieves by Megan Wallen Turner. This is the fifth book in the Thief series, which I love. I will say, not loving this one as much because there's a character in here that is getting on my nerves. But I am on page 190, plowing through, making good progress. And I'm still liking it, but I'm not loving this one as much as I loved the other ones because I'm not seeing as much of the characters that I love so much. And the characters that I am seeing more of, I'm not liking one of them at all because he's very whiny and vain, but I have hopes. We'll see if it gets better. After I read this, I don't know what I'll read next. I'm on the wait list for the next Lynn Cahoon book, and I kind of really want to reread Stealing Home, so I might do that. So that's it for this video. Comment down below and let me know what you read in the month of December. Also comment down below and let me know what the last book you read for the end of the year was. I actually finished Dressing to Kill, whatever the last book I read was on New Year's Eve. It was around probably like 10 or 11 that morning, and that's when I finished the book, and I was determined to finish it. And there was a point where I had nothing to do, so I just sat down and read, and it was great. So I finished my last book the last possible day. Let me know if you finished the one you were reading or if it carried over. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see y'all again in another one soon.